All right. I don't think I can fill an hour and a half, but I will start with just telling you, those of you who I haven't kind of given tidbits already as you've been coming in. I'm Alexis Williams. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. I've always been in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I am the third generation at Christ Lutheran Church. My grandparents moved from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to Charlotte in the 70s, and then my mom moved down and met my dad. So they were married in the church, I was married in the church, and now I'm raising the fourth generation at Christ Lutheran. So there's not a lot, as you might know, North Carolina has a lot of transplanted folks from other states, so there's not a lot of unicorns, as they call us, those that have been born in, but I always find them, because I find that people that I went to school with never left. So I have been there all 40 years of my life at Christ Lutheran, and obviously as a parishioner, it was home, but there were subtle hints all along the way, like one day I'm going to be on this staff, I could just tell. So I am a copy editor, that is my profession, for Wells Fargo Bank, and have been for 15 years. And so I would see subtle issues like in slides and things. I was like, I've got to get on this staff so I can work on the grammar. So it was just something that felt natural. And in 2019, our director of communications needed an associate. So I kind of took on a 10-hour-a-week role helping with e-news, social media posting, the blog that our pastors do. We do some videos, things like that. So I took on that role. And then in like February of 2020, our senior pastor is a visionary, and he's always trying to add something new. So we have 3 campuses, our main campus, and then we have one that is a build in the south part of our city, and then we took on a dying congregation in the northern end. So they were about gone, and now they worship about 50. So they're fairly small. We have about 3,500 members. So I think Senior Scott Suskovic is our senior pastor, and he always says that we're the largest ELCA in the Eastern Seaboard. So he says, he decided to try and make a 4th campus, Christ Online. Now, it was February 2020. So he put up a job posting, and I thought it would be a natural fit to add that to what I was already doing, social media and stuff that we did online anyway. So I applied and got it. And then March 15th of 2020, it wasn't just so I sent his original job description for me was to legitimize online worship as an authentic experience that goes beyond merely spectating to participating in the service. He wanted encouraging dialogue, questions, shout-outs, invites for prayer, authentic community, and then he wanted it to expand to midweek Bible studies, midweek gatherings online, and then hopefully have people get together geographically that we're worshiping online, because we do have a lot of South Carolina folks, we have Virginia folks, and they weren't going to come in person necessarily, but his vision was to see that some of those people could get together physically. That was the original job description, and then when mid-March came, we went completely online like everybody else did. And so my job suddenly was basically facilitate worship on Sunday for everybody. And it was insane. I mean, as you know, like, it was hard to pivot from being in person. So everybody else had to figure it out. And I was just learning how to meet people where they are. And we wanted to start seeing where everybody was. I'm sure all of you have, where is everybody? And it's hard to know that if they don't let you know. And that has been and still is the hardest part about my position, is learning, who are you? Where are you? How did you find us? All that. So, let's see. Somebody else made these slides for me. So the first thing I do is I am building a team of online chat people for Sunday morning. We have 3 worship services at our main campus. They're all streamed online. We started out using ChurchFlow and Facebook, and then ChurchFlow crashed completely, and we switched to YouTube Live and Facebook Live. And that's what we do. That's what we do now. We have YouTube and Facebook. And so we do have a live chat going on both of those platforms, and I am usually the one monitoring that and engaging people in that space on both at the same time. I think I'm going to show you a picture. We also totally revamped our website. We hired a outside firm to help us redo our website so that it'd be easier to find everything. And paying attention to viewership. This is kind of what I do. I will come up with an engaging question or something where we can, start. Although I did learn from the beginning that people mostly wanted to greet each other and chit-chat. So I would start to pull apart the people who would do that more often and felt like they were shepherding people, and just ask them on the side, continue please, to do that, because they're hearing from somebody more than just me. And sometimes the pastors will send me questions based on their sermon. I encourage them to do so, and they do that sometimes. Sometimes they forget, and I come up with some, but usually I try and take what they've asked me to ask. I am the head of the chat team. Since we have multiple campuses, I'm trying to get more volunteers to do that, and that's my hope this year. Now that I feel like 2020 was crazy, 2021, I kind of settled into a routine, and now I feel like I want to build that group to have more volunteers so that I am not the only one doing the chatting. I also work very closely with our tech team. We have a pretty extensive music and worship team that are doing everything in the house, sound, the lighting, and everything. So I have a pretty quick, I don't always go to campus. I can do this from my house, but I do have direct, quick communication to the tech booth so that I can say, what's going on. There have been some things that have been very surprising and negative about online worship. Good Friday 2020 was the first time that we experienced trolls and negative comments on our live chat. And we really don't get that so much on Sundays. We've noticed that if we do a worship on a weekday evening, it's going to possibly be open to that kind of thing. So I was policing that instead of being able to pay attention to what we have too many people. We have had too many people with access to our platform. So we have a couple of people who maybe aren't as eloquent at commenting about things. So I've had to work through that. Spam comments, I think so we've had some anti-mask people say some things that were rather rude, some just back and forth. You guys get it. You just have to, it's hard when your pastors aren't totally tech savvy and they're not on there really comment. I've just had to be pretty nimble at either deleting or coming back with something gracious to say to people that have something negative to say. Also, as I've gotten more comfortable watching worship online, it's been fun to ask our pastors to adapt because now we are back in person and online. Not nearly as many come to church as used to, but plenty. And so it's been entertaining to watch them speak to the online audience. We've created QR codes. I'm sure I wrote all that. Just talking directly to the camera, having a awareness that they're watching online. I send to my chat folks every Friday the links. We link a PDF download of our bulletin for the week. Our family ministry team started putting together something called Christ Kids TV. It's a short YouTube, kind of like a children's sermon. every week on YouTube, and it's really cute. And so whenever they go to the children's sermon in person, I'll share that link in the chat. Text to give, we have texting to give, and then I can share an online prayer request form, things like that. Just each week I try and keep that consistent so that they know what's coming. And actually, sometimes you wonder if people are actually seeing these things, and then accidentally the wrong bulletin was uploaded, and I did get, so we're like, yay, people are using the resources. So, and yeah, Christ Kids TV is super cute. It's on YouTube, and it's just something that our family ministry team came up with. So this is our website. We made an entire page for Christ Online, and I'm going to click to where these drop down. But we've tried, when you've got all the cooks in the kitchen, it's hard to know what we're going to land on that'll be the most useful. But we have listed things out. So each week we update. So you can click for Christ Kids, you can download the bulletin, you can go worship on Facebook or YouTube for all of our services that are going on. It's been a really good way to house everything in one place and have one link to share. You can find everything typically here. So that is what we have come to. The big ticket item for this position is figuring out attendance, who's watching, how many, and how to report that to people in leadership who don't really understand what they're looking at when they look at. And I was not an expert on analytics, especially in Facebook. You can go in for hours and not figure out what you're looking at. So at first, I was pulling the views. So we all thought we had thousands of people watching our entire worship services. So that's where we started. That's all we really had to go on at first. We didn't really know. And so I would attend other free workshops or, look for classes online, things like that. But I think nobody really knew what it was that we were going for at first. So we would track that. Got the senior pastor really excited. And then YouTube views. And that was where we've come from. And where I've landed is I will check the analytics for YouTube under concurrent views and 1 minute plus on Facebook, and that puts us more in the 400 person range, which seems a lot more realistic because it's mirroring pretty well what we're worshiping in a person. So, and you can it feels better to be somewhere that seems more realistic. So that's where we are. So this is kind of what I submit something like this to our worship planning team every Monday, just kind of breaking it down. Our Concord and South campuses are a lot smaller, and our South campus actually was insisting on having their own YouTube channel for a long time, but now that we've brought everybody onto the same YouTube page with different channels, they're getting a lot more viewership, so that's picking up. Everything should be in the same place, we thought. We've got something called The Bridge that's at 10 o'clock. It's concurrent with Sunday school, so the parents like to go to that one if they drop their kids at Sunday school. And then we've got contemporary worship.
Did you guys originally start with YouTube, or did you go to both immediately?
We originally started with Facebook and that Church Flow platform, and then when it failed, we went to YouTube. And YouTube has worked so nicely because then it stores them all right there really nicely, and I can easily, some folks have asked me to turn off the chat feature on there because also we're learning that if you're on YouTube, you're streaming it to your TV or something and you're not really seeing that chat. So if I get chatter, people talking amongst themselves, is more on Facebook. Yes?
Is the YouTube a subscription? How are you on YouTube? What way to get in?
You can subscribe to our channel, but we didn't pay for
So you just have your church YouTube.
It's Christ Lutheran Charlotte, I think,
They're
but
okay with less than 1,000 people, whatever it is.
Yep.
They don't care.
There's a lot of people on YouTube
Because
that don't.
we're doing Facebook, and then an hour later we transcribe it over to YouTube. You can do both concurrent.
yes.
You use this, what do you guys use for that?
It's YK.
That's why the IT guy is here, but
Okay.
we do have we have 3 streaming on YouTube at the same
We
time.
use Church Online Platform.
Church online platform?
Yeah, and that allows you to stream out. So we get our website, YouTube, and Facebook at the same time.
Yeah,
And some hardware that can do it too natively as well.
yeah, we
Vimeo.
Vimeo.
And Facebook and Vimeo all the same time.
Vimeo,
Pay
okay.
for it. But at least there's if we have issues, they have customer support we can contact.
that
That's helpful, which I don't think YouTube.
that was something that was a reason why we got rid of our other. We were using SBT and they were not available on Sundays. So
Right.
that's not going to work. So we do have, just recently, we have an IT person on church staff full time. So he's working on getting us doing something besides Facebook and YouTube, something more in-house because the only other thing that we've had issue with is our internet provider and the strength of the internet just in general. And and it really doesn't show on YouTube as much as Facebook. Facebook glitches a lot. So we're chasing our tails, but we'll figure it out. So the other hat that I do wear is social media, because the original intention of this position was to be something that carried well beyond Sunday. So before I arrived, we put our foot in every social media platform, even the ones that I'm learning are not really useful to a church environment. We had a Twitter account, but we weren't using it for anything. We do have a Pinterest page, and that seems silly too, and LinkedIn, and so I've just made everything. So I'm pretty much on Facebook and Instagram. I do Boost. I think I talk about that in a minute. Yeah. So we were running into a lot of copyright issues also. We do have all of our licenses, and yet Facebook is ridiculously. So we would have part of it muted, and then the whole thing would be messed up, and so. We have a very good person in charge of all of our videos, so she's been able to work. YouTube doesn't really worry over that, even if they say you have a copyright claim. Nothing really happens to you. So I will take the link from an online worship service and boost it through Facebook for a small fee, just to get. I was doing it a lot more, but then it's not really making too much of an impact, so I do it for a nominal fee, just to get the word out. And we have gotten some visitors there. And then I showed you the web page, and that also has a drop down for weekly classes. And when our pastor decided he wanted me to have midweek Bible studies, I thought I was going to have to create something new for everybody to go to. But then with COVID, we've pivoted and had most of our classes are Zoom too, or recorded and put on the YouTube page for people to go to afterward. So most of our classes are that way now, which took a bunch of upgrading. So we also pay a company to make posts that look sort of like this, and for asking for prayer requests, just engagement posts for Facebook and Instagram, and then engagement has been something that I have worked on, making sure I respond to every comment that's on there. Make sure people I like them, I like the post, and keep the engagement alive. That's been one of my goals too, to try and keep it going beyond. And then this is what the part of Christ Online looks like with the classes, with Zoom links, and it's one of the drop downs on that page I showed you originally. So
you are recording every adult Bible class and posting that on YouTube. Is that what you're saying?
there are the big ones. This one, the pastor's class on Wednesday nights. That's people can come in person or Zoom, and then that is recorded. I think that coffee with the pastors in the morning. Some of the smaller ones are not, and we do have to rely on the teachers of those classes to give us the information. And so we try and get as many on there as we can so that people have options.
And what is your engagement in the live and Zoom when they're going on at the same time?
Half and half. People are slowly coming back in person. Wednesday nights, we used to have a very robust Wednesday night with a dinner and the classes, a lot more classes. And we haven't quite gotten the dinner back on track yet because people aren't really coming to eat. We tried, and attendance wasn't great, so it didn't really make sense to pay for the food. But when we get back to, but I actually spoke at one of them, and it seemed like we had a good crowd on both, and then you get the same people on both. They just get used to coming to the class, I guess.
I think it's a little easier when you're preaching to engage the people, but during a Bible study, to me it seems like even the pastor or the leader has to be even more intentional for the Zoom people.
About addressing them, yes.
It's even harder when they don't turn on their mic or their video.
There is a lot of training involved in that.
Actually, sometimes it's easier when they leave their video off. See that,
Right.
please?
How well do the people online tend to engage in the group like that, or do they tend to just stay quiet? I mean, I'm just curious what you're finding.
I'm finding that we have a handful of very outspoken people that are online. And so to the point where we wouldn't want to not be there for them. I'm going to get to it, but surprisingly, we do have people have joined the church who will never walk through the door. So those people are on there every week. And, it's like, yes.
Can you walk me through your setup for that kind of engagement? We've been struggling with the idea of when the pastor is only doing to online, they're able to see and function with everybody and interact with everybody who's right there in front of the computer screen.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing it concurrently to a room and the computer screen, how have you gotten your pastors to be able to engage both? I struggle at it. What we normally do is we normally have a screen with the Zoom folks on it, a larger screen, and we usually put the pastor on his laptop too on the Zoom. So it's just a matter of look at the people and then also look. So it is a lot. That's a lot. So if we did it here in this room, you'd have a computer in front of you and then up there.
You would also see the folks.
So if the person that's on Zoom wants to interact with the class, though, I mean, are they chatting, or is it you got some kind of audio system so the room can hear them?
We keep the laptop on mute, and then we have speakers in the room that are picking up everything, so that it doesn't mess up the
Feedback.
awful feedback. And I think that's just they're getting more used to it. And I know we have our staff meeting. Our weekly staff meeting is hybrid like that. And so he's there with his laptop open, and he will address us. I think he's just getting more comfortable with it finally. The groups are small. It's like this size and less than this online. But some learn,
So, when I was doing this, I would always have an admin in the room who was running the Zoom calls, so that I can focus on content and I don't have to worry about the connection between the room people and the Zoom
Right.
people, right? So I can focus on either, but I
Kinda
have
like
to
worship,
have
like
an
you were
admin
talking about.
person
Yep.
sitting there who's helping me make sure that I'm.
And so we just are in the middle of a new member class, and we do it in 2 parts, and there's a Zoom option. And for those, I am there for the chat function of Zoom, and people have really needed that, and so that's been helpful. I know, like, for his class that he does, that pastor's class is one of our bigger hybrid ones, and there's 2 of them in that class. So I haven't been in that one since the 2 pastors have been there together, but I would be willing to bet one of them is computer focused while the other is speaking. I know that's not, but it would be good to have somebody at all of those things. I'm just not full time there.
One tip I was gonna say to you too is a lot of people, pastors generally don't get it, but if you like, they make these laptop stands a lot of time for like worship, and just getting it higher. Because a lot of times it's down low, and it's not like you're actually like, if you're online, it's like you're in some weird angle watching online. But if you get the camera angle up and high, and then your chin looks better, and then it's just like if you get them in your line, if you get the computer in your line of vision, and just make them part of that line of vision, then you're just gonna naturally.
I just want to go to, because I always feel like I cannot see visual cues with the people on the computer like I can the people in the room. And so when I'm saying something, and it's connecting to this, you guys are nodding now, versus, you know,
Yeah, I get you.
or you get the blank stare and you're like, okay, clearly I'm not connecting.
And overall, I feel like we could tell a big difference from the season we spent online only. To that point, our pastors were way more comfortable when they had somebody sitting there to see. And so we would put somebody out there that they could nod and give them something back, because you can tell a big difference. They're just getting more comfortable with it now, and yet you can tell it's like, come back, come back. But we're fostering this relationship with people who won't be coming, and so it's every little bit. So yeah, the new member classes. Let's see. We have, I guess I didn't put it on the slide, but right now we have 42 people who have joined our church that live far away. And more just attended the class last weekend. So now my task is to find out how can I get those people engaged. So we're talking about doing a series of videos where we walk around and show them the church and what's going on everywhere. They're going to continue to be in the classes. They're going to continue to come to worship, but now my next step is to figure out how to, now what? And I haven't figured it out, so.
What, online membership, is it exclusive? In other words, so I'm watching you guys, and so I want to become a member. I also have a membership over at this place in Tennessee, and I'm still listed as their member. Do people see themselves as exclusively going to your place now?
These folks who have joined are exclusively,
They don't go anywhere else?
they don't go anywhere else.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have that, but I mean, I'm not comfortable with it, but I have it. And, okay, so they do.
How do you do sacraments online?
Oh, I wish my senior pastor was here. At the,
That's the $30,064 million question.
we have not been approached for any sort of online baptism yet, so I don't know. But we did make the decision early on to do online communion. So it's more of a get a bowl of water, give each other a blessing kind of, or in the room, obviously, we're going to do the traditional way, but it is just something that he got blessing from the ELCA to do, and they just say if you're there with your family, give each other the blessing and the bread, and
That is not being blessed in the Missouri Synod.
no,
At any time along the road.
no. So, no. But,
But I think that's going to be
It's
a
a
huge
question,
issue.
great question.
Yeah, it's a huge issue.
These are actually people that are spiritually attached to this
Right.
church and this pastor.
Right.
And they want that.
Right.
They want that full component. I've done house blessings, which
Right.
are really good on that. Because the person carries the water from room to room and splashes it down.
oh, that's a good idea.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, yeah,
But that's different from communion.
right. It is.
Now, I did see early on when everything was shut down and so people weren't even having it in person, that a church, the pastor would consecrate the elements and then the parishioners would drive by and pick it up.
Mm.
And then
We were
they
doing
had it in service.
we were doing drive-through communion. Yes, we were doing that. And we've done drive-through ashing situations on Ash Wednesday, and those were, I don't know, just yeah. So trying to adapt as best that we can. A lot of the folks I've talked to who are pledging their membership to our church were disappointed by complete shutdown from the churches in their area and just kind of latched on, and or they're family members of people who are members at our church locally. So they may come to visit family.
You asked that question, reason for coming here?
Yes, yes. And the thing about it is now, there's so many people that are clearly, you watch and there's 90 people watching and nobody's really commenting. How am I going to know? And I can't know unless they tell me. I can't. I can know where they are. I can know, sort of how many devices are watching. But
See, again, our metric is, we went away from the attendance online, we just count IP addresses.
yeah,
It's too hard to do it otherwise. You're just guessing.
Yes.
So we just say, okay, here's the IP addresses, and let's build off that number.
right. That is, it's a big issue.
Question two, I know you're on the front porch of this ministry, but with online members, bringing them in to the church as members, I understand. What have you thought of in the future to engage them in the ministry of your congregation? Not just as a member, but engaged in the ministry of your church locally. Right.
So far, what we have done is we have our big outreach items, and we've just done our best to get there be an online component. We have adopted a middle school. It's 15 years ago we adopted a middle school, and we have a Tuesday night dinner for all of the kids and their parents. We've got ESL classes. It's our big outreach project. We are able to Zoom from there to show them what the kids are doing. We're able to get them to give towards that. We had, during COVID, we would feed them, all their families, meals every week. They would just come by, like grocery shopping at our church. So they're able to give, but that is their biggest question when they're joining online. What can I do to be a part of it? And a lot of them are happy to just show us what's going on, and we'll help. And so,
What's the level of donation from all of this? PayPal or whatever you're using?
the level of donation.
Are a lot of these people giving money?
Yes. And often, I would say, we are getting their information to contact them for membership by that first online gift. Because for a while, and especially now, we're assuming that if someone is giving online rather than in the plate weekly, they're probably going to be an online member. Not necessarily, but that usually comes with an email address, because getting that information, that contact information, is the hardest part. So once we have an email address, I'm reaching out to them, or somebody, our admin is reaching out to them and asking if they're...
But they're asked there's an online donor button, I'm sure.
Yes.
Part of the service contains that.
Yes.
Option.
Yes.
So, are those online members, are they within driving distance? Are they in the same state? Are they, do you know where they are located?
Most people who are going to be exclusively online are not in the state. I know we've got Tennessee, we've got surrounding states, Tennessee, but the folks that are in South Carolina are usually coming. They can still get there within a pretty good, but we have members in St. Louis. I know we've got some in Illinois. And they've either heard about it through family. Some of them just found us on YouTube.
Right. Well, and we had the same thing. I was just curious, if they live within, regionally, if they're in that area, it makes sense. Then you can plug them in. But if they're out of state, we had people who want to join who, for any number of reasons, they don't have a car, and they're homebound. Certainly, and I'm not talking about elderly homebound. I'm talking about a person who just they don't have a car.
Right.
And so we welcome people that way, but we also have people viewing from out of state. It's interesting.
So,
quandary. How do
so
you-
we're struggling with the same thing, and I'm an external processor, so I'm gonna think a little bit out loud, and see what you guys think. We've really kind of thought about what does membership mean? So it's people showing up and watching worship, or showing up for worship or watching worship, but it's also people engaged in fellowship. It's people engaged in service. It's people engaged in learning, right? That's kind of the basics of what membership means. So if we do that at a physical campus, how do we take those basic elements and reproduce them in a virtual campus? And yeah, we've got people that are from South Carolina and from Washington State and from Northern Virginia. And so how do we get these people not just watching, but engaged in fellowship with each other? Engaged in some kind of service. Not that we've got the answers yet, but those are the questions that we're asking.
And sort of asking them to become like a missionary in their community, in their neighborhood, and equipping them, discipling them to disciple others.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying.
Yeah, I know.
My visionary senior pastor, before COVID kept going up, when he thought the end was near, he came up with another idea to start from the Christ Online folks that are those folks too far, to start Christ Home, and have those folks, or start with maybe 6 of those folks and ask them to invite 10 folks to their house for Sunday morning worship, and then we would equip them with something to continue that, a Bible study, something that everybody would be doing at the same time. So then it was more like small home churches.
Yes.
And that's brewing in him, I know.
And they would develop their own service projects out of their own.
They would.
But it's crazy how we're still driven that we have to get together physically, and how do we do it virtually? And because I think a lot of times we think about membership, and it's about being engaged in activities that go on at the church, but can it be embracing the mission or the ministry of the church and carrying that out? Whatever your mission statement is, you don't have to be in this town to carry out your mission statement.
Right.
So I might not be able to be involved in-person Tuesday night Bible study, but if your mission statement is sharing the Word of God with open joy or whatever it is, I can do that where I'm virtually where I'm at.
It doesn't answer the sacrament question.
Yeah,
That-
that's a huge question.
That's a
That we're
pretty-
gonna have to get to at some point in time, but for right now, let's just get people together in small groups or whatever
Correct.
virtually, and we'll get there, but we'll have to struggle.
Maybe we plug them in. I have
You're an
no.
optimist. That
Well, but I'm saying, don't let, major and majors, right, don't let that one hold you back from the other stuff.
Let's get Instacart to start
Yeah,
sending
let's,
out.
yeah, something.
Yeah.
I'd like to speak as a former ecclesiastical supervisor.
I knew that was coming.
Oh gosh.
I knew that was coming.
This is my partner in
Yeah, yeah.
ecclesiastical supervision. So, sheep stealing. So, is if I'm getting, which I have 50, whatever amount of people from Florida, are these people that could be going to your church or somebody else's church down there, who fled from those churches for various reasons, and what should happen? Or B, which is I think more to it, is what happens if you had this online home thing going on in an area where there was a Lutheran church that they could go to? Would you trust that church enough to send those people over there? And the answer is, I'll get back to you.
Well, and I think that's the thing for us is the people that are watching us online, many of them don't have local Lutheran churches.
There you go. Okay, that's good.
But some of them do, and it's
Yeah.
they connect with Redeemer, they connect with our people, they connect with our mission, they connect with what we're doing. They want to be a part of it. And I'd rather them be a part of what we're doing than not be a part of what somebody else is doing.
That's a thorough issue. I mean, especially if it's a decent number of people. And then let's say they're in North Carolina going to your ELCA thing, and then you're marketing the same thing in the Missouri Synod thing. You're crossing also denominational lines, and who cares?
It's a big thing.
I guess it is a big deal.
Sorry.
Yeah.
The real
I don't
world,
care anymore like I used to.
the real world we live in today, people used to be a member because of proximity.
Yes.
Now it's about
Totally.
priority.
Right.
Mhm.
And the neighborhood has become a worldwide.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's no longer
For better,
geographic.
for worse.
Yeah, and so I think what it's calling us to do is pay a lot more attention to what are the priorities of your ministry.
Mhm.
That's, look at it.
And I would say too, some of the people that have addressed some of this issue before are your churches that may minister to snowbirds, or people who are only there for a short amount of time during the year,
Mhm.
and they're living somewhere else. Those are the ones who are equipped to answer some of those questions a little bit differently, because they've thought through, well, what is this like when my member isn't here for 3 months,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, and usually those snowbirds, don't they usually, I mean, ours, they find a church home, at least the ones that we don't have too many snowbirds.
And this adds the additional element of.
Well, we have a number of snowbirds, but, you know, if they're going to a church home there, they consider, you know, that they worship regularly.
They don't no longer belong to the church.
They do, but while they're away for those 3 months, they're actively worshiping and being cared for, receiving sacraments at this.
So we're in Nebraska, and we got, I don't know, we met with a dozen or 14 of our members last night for supper. And so, and always they would they would be a part of a local church here. All of them said they're watching them. Yeah. So they're now instead of going to a local church here, they would rather stay connected to their church in Nebraska, watching online. So I was able to have communion with them last night, and many of them had not had communion for 2 months since they've been down here.
Oh, you met them in person here.
Yeah, we went for we drank several margaritas.
And then you had
Like this, you deserve the same.
And then they'll watch ours. They'll just kind of
He's delivering.
Yeah, no, but you're right, and that number has really gone up now that we've made online worship presence a thing. That it, 10 years ago, it was unheard of.
Yeah.
We do have a lot of people who are just watching and do go somewhere else.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And we're totally comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yep.
But when it comes to the membership question, that's a different question, right?
And they have to they do have to kind of seek that out in a way. I mean, we say, are you really interested? It's pretty intense. I mean,
Well, and for us, it's, the metrics are great.
Yeah, but
People watching and that kind of stuff, but our mission is make disciples.
Yeah.
So how do we take these, people that are viewing us
Viewers.
and make disciples out of it?
Yes.
And that's the question that's driving it.
And that is something we can do online. We can.
We can do that online.
And we can, those
Yep.
people who are online members, we can have an online discipleship class that
Absolutely.
can say, here's your next step.
Right.
Here, the next step would be
Yeah, absolutely. But
Because it would be, this would be, if you want to get more involved, I love that idea of inviting, find friends, invite them over to watch.
And then do the next thing.
Not really a nursing home, but a community building in town where we had a member and he's unable to get to church very often and was talking to some, oh yeah, we watch your church. And now they get together and
Together.
they got 16 and they're only 3 blocks away from us. But they're unable to get 3 blocks.
Right.
And so they get together and he is just as proud as Peacock because it's his church. I mean,
Yep.
this is what, and then, Pastor, could you come over some Sunday as soon as church is over and bring communion
Yep.
for us?
Yeah, wonderful.
Well, and to your point earlier, we've got people that are watching us who actually live within our community,
Absolutely.
and they will never come into our building because they've been beat up by the church.
Mhm.
They've had bad experiences, and so going through the doors of a church is a very traumatic experience.
Mhm.
This is a safe place where they can watch us, and they can even join the church
Mhm.
and not ever step foot in the building, and I'm okay with that.
That's very profound. This is a healing.
Absolutely.
This is
Oh,
a
yeah.
healing mission.
Right.
It's a mission of healing for lots and lots.
Yeah. I mean, we have folks that are just scared to death to leave their house still. But they can worship. And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
we do have like home communion for those close by, so we have volunteers that take
One
that to them.
wrestling with evaluation, like how do we evaluate if we're carrying out our mission or if we're just saying our mission? Are people actually carrying it out and trying to point people to Christ, which is our statement? And one thing that we started 5 weeks ago is so we're on air, so we go on to our local news channel and online and everything. But we do, so our contemporary service is at 9 and then our traditional is at 10:30. And there's a 30-minute gap in between, and we had to pay for that to be on the air. So we started doing a halftime show.
Oh, yeah.
So we have a halftime
Please
show.
tell me that's how it's branded.
That's exactly how it's branded.
So yeah, that's how it's branded. And so we go in the Point, which is our Narthex Fellowship Hall, and I have a little table and microphones, and then we just talk about the sermon and about what's going on at church. And then we usually have prompting questions to try to like get people to tell us stories about like we were talking about the mat, which is
Mark 2.
yeah, the story of the man on the mat, or the paralytic on the mat. Anyway, and so just asking them times in their lives when they've been on the mat and people have come to help them. I think that's a good way if we can get the people to comment, and that's what I'm really
And how are they interacting back to you?
Facebook and YouTube. So I have my
Okay, so
computer.
it's chat.
Yeah, chat.
Okay.
So I just have like 20 tabs open.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
But it's so crazy. So we started doing this, and the Point, and we had TVs, and so people who are there, it's like, well, can you put the halftime show on the TV? And it's like,
You're here.
Just go over and stand by them.
But be there.
They're talking about,
That's-
But can it be on the TV?
No, it cannot.
Our DC, she was on other DC. She was on it with me, and her son is standing behind us, and I swear it's just like college game day. Like he's like jumping around, dancing.
Oh, nice. I've thought about when we were totally online, we started doing a Zoom call in between services. I forget what I call something coffee hour. Maybe it was something like that. And so because we have the first one is around 9, and then we had the 10 o'clock hour open when nobody was coming to the building because that's Sunday school now. And so in between there, I would get them on a Zoom call, and then people could. And then whichever pastor preached would be on there to continue and that was nice. I just feel like I need to make it more creative now because people weren't.
People from the band stop and do a 5-minute
Yeah.
talk, or one of our elders stop, or
Do a lot of storytelling, just trying to get people to tell their stories, because I feel like when people are in the fellowship hall, they're always talking about like stories about how they found our church and but that should tie them in a little bit more. It'd be cool if the online people could tell us how they usually do something.
And I know, but that's a good idea. So I know, and I'm trying to mail out things like tchotchkes. Like when people join in person, they get like a mug. So I've started. Well, all my online people should get that stuff too. So of course they should. I feel like you go through and you add new things, and then you figure out what to do with it. And so
I think it's nice you call them your online people.
they are my online people. I don't know why they called me an online minister, but it was cute.
Looking ahead where you are now, I know we're getting close to the hour. Post-pandemic, we're 3 years down the line. Are we going to continue to be engaged with these online connections? Or how are we going to minister to those people when the congregation decides we can no longer want to afford the cost of broadcasting our services? Or is that here to stay forever?
I think it's here to stay.
It's gonna morph.
I think it's going to keep changing.
Every person needs to talk to us.
What I hear people say who like to talk a lot of people who write blogs about this type of thing is it'd be foolish to not plan for it to be here to stay. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I swear I'd like to just keep it growing so that I know that our worship team has worked worked so hard to make it something that's appealing to online, but also appealing to the folks in the pews. And I just don't think online is going away.
those were huge examples, right? Life Church before the pandemic. I mean, millions of people engaged. I mean, so.
Wow.
well,
Like on it, like on church, yeah.
millions of people, yes.
I think something
Theatrics.
that happened, which, and you guys are probably bigger church guys, but this was very democratic for smaller churches, like mine, so, which is all black and brown, most of the church. And when we went to this, we found out there was a whole, we didn't know there were anybody who do this, that all the mega churches were doing this, we didn't know what they were doing, and it wasn't like that. A lot of people said, I like your place, you have, it looks like this, looks like me, and it sounds like me, and it was more democratic, because I didn't have to pay for, how much is, that's not a big budget item. And so all of a sudden, we had a bunch of people watching we had no idea would ever care about it, and it worked for almost nothing, and we didn't have a big budget, we didn't have a big church, and any of that. So it's possible for the smaller church to get involved with this, which I thought was something I had not perceived.
And I think too, going forwards, you're gonna have the younger generations gonna look at, like the older generations are looking at the website or whatnot. This is your front door. This is the way that they're gaining an idea of who you are. They're not gonna walk through your front door physically. They're gonna bounce around and go view what you've got posted online. They're gonna see from, is this a fit for me, whether we like to acknowledge that or not. That's how they're gonna find you.
Absolutely.
How often do you go to a restaurant now without checking Yelp first?
Never.
Well, within the last year, we've had people move to our area and walk in the doors and say, "Yep, I've been watching you for 3 weeks. You're the church I want to join."
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't have to date them anymore, right? I mean, that kind of thing.
Right.
They walk in the door, no, this is where we want to be.
That's very true. They check you out first on the
Absolutely.
before they walk in the door.
It's pretty funny. So our church is in an old Budweiser distribution facility, and
Okay, where is that located?
and they have enough time.
The margaritas.
And it's really funny because people, you know, they check you out way before they come and visit. And Pastor Eric, our other pastor, is always like talks about how you can tell when someone's been watching online but not been in person because they'll walk in the door and they look up because the ceilings are so tall.
Oh,
Look around and. But, yeah.
it's a different perspective in
Yeah.
person.
So he
Or
knows
they
exactly
walk up
what
and they
he's
say, "Hey, how are you doing?" And they use your name, and I'm like, I have no idea.
Right. Yes. Oh
It
man.
was much easier for me to engage people when we were fully online and not in person.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I ask about the Zoom and in person. I mean, I got a Zoom Bible study that has, we got 50, 60 people come to that, but it's only Zoom. And it's so easy to engage
Right.
with 50 people on Zoom. But when I got 7 people in the room and 7 people on Zoom, it's next to impossible to make. I mean, it's just.
Yeah, I had my son, the camera guy. I had my daughter, the slide.
Yeah.
And then I had somebody pressing the button to start the music, So, and then, all together, we worked it from our house. I was working a vacancy at the time. That was like an hour away. So I'm not going to go over there. I mean, what's the point, right? I'm going to an empty building. So we did it from home, and it was really an experience. I mean, it was great.
Mhm.
But it's just different now, right? It's just
Yeah.
a different product, too, that you put out to people as well.
Yes.
A little different, too.
Yes.
I know you talked about training your pastors to talk better in an online space.
Mhm.
Are you doing anything deliberate for a message from them midweek, whatever, just for online folk, or specifically talking to online folk, not in a live setting,
Right.
record or anything like that?
They are, yes. Good. Our pastors do a Sunday sneak peek every week. We were, on the advice of the company that did our website, we were doing kind of like Elevation does, where we would clip the sermon or 30 seconds of the sermon and put that on YouTube really quick, or on Instagram, really, I would put it there too. And that wasn't getting as much. People, over the years, we have done Sneak Peek for years and years and years. So they'll go into our tiny little video studio we've built and record what's coming up Sunday in a minute. And then I'll put that on, and that is just for, it's obviously for everyone, but it goes online on Thursdays, typically. And it's just a teaser for everybody. And so we they don't really like that all the time. I always have to have a blog in my back pocket just in case we don't get one.
My problem with the Sunday sneak peek is my pastor would have to have his sermon up before Saturday.
Hey. Let's not get carried
Even the other
away.
guy.
Who's the other guy?
I'm gonna sit down a couple seats.
Right?
His
That's
photo
true.
He no longer works at
Yeah, that is true. Or at least I would not say that they have it completed by then.
One of the things he has had us do, though, is we do a 3-minute devotion on Mondays and Thursdays and post that. And it's crazy people know that it's recorded. I mean,
It's
they
live.
think, they think they're watching, like, Pastor Lee gets up at 6 o'clock and does that every morning.
Make them
It's
think
so
it.
nice.
It's fine.
With high quality video and lighting.
Yes.
So earlier you talked about engagement posts and driving the connection. Are you utilizing that in a focused aspect of this is what's happening this week, so our engagement posts go in line with what's going to take place through Sunday? Or are those kind of their own standalone to create community outside of what takes place Sunday?
The example I showed you is more just purely for engagement, and I'll even get on there. I think the best post I did was show me a picture of your cat, and I think we got 50 cat pictures. Like, it was ridiculous. So I put your favorite Bible verse and crickets, and then you put a picture of your cat or dog or whatever. But
The Bible verse.
so. But that's the trick, though. That's the trick you learn, is that if you put one of those that gets 50 comments, then those people are going to see everything else you post more, and then it shows up more for them. So, yes, the lovely algorithm. So we have a graphic designer who creates ad type images based on whatever events are happening that week, and so I will strategically post those too, kind of like little, to sign up.
Outside of house?
That is in-house.
Okay.
We have a graphic designer. So she creates those. We have a form that anybody on staff can fill out. I have a bowling night for the high schoolers, job request, and I want this to go on Facebook. I want it to go on Instagram. We need a video created, whatever. And then so we kind of put that on a production calendar, and I post it and get. We have we have Realm. We have a sign up, like a database that we can do links, so you can sign up, register for classes and stuff. So I'll put those links on Facebook too.
We have a big thing, prayer. Prayer is the biggest thing for you guys. People want prayers all the time.
Yes.
Do you have a way to follow up on the prayers? So Aunt Tilly, my aunt went in the hospital last week in another city.
Right.
So somebody metric that down and say, I'll call her, or what happens to that?
So our website has a link for prayer requests, so they can type it up, send it in. Our communication director gets all of those, and she filters them to the pastors. And they split them up amongst themselves to call. Everybody gets called.
So they contact.
Yes, they contact them. And definitely the online folks. I will have people, because I've also tried to friend request the members I know so that I can keep an eye on them, and so they will private message me through Facebook with prayer requests too. You get all kinds of.
We've actually been able to put that into our worship service, text in church, where they actually text in their prayers.
Yes.
We lift them up. I mean, you got to be careful, if somebody's having hemorrhoids or something like that.
That's.
We get a lot of texts.
And then you can follow up.
Yeah, we're texting back,
Yes.
And we use that same number for everything.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a product that I've heard a lot about too. Text in church.
It's a separate.
It's Text in Church is the company. They advertise a lot. Text in Church.
Give me a number, I'll get you something.
They're running text in church, like I need that.
We use the Google Voice number to do that.
Oh.
So they text it to the Google Voice number, and then with the app on your phone, it can even show up on your iWatch. And we've been doing that since we've been back in person.
Oh.
So we don't do the prayer request cards anymore, it's just texting your prayer request.
So we actually have a cell phone on the altar that we're checking.
Yeah.
We're looking at the scores.
Cutting, cutting edge. So that's all I have, but this has been great. Oh yeah, I hope that at least I got the talk going.
I was gonna ask a question about monetizing, because nobody talked about that here, which is great, meaning everybody was focused on the mission, you know. No question except something I mentioned. So, is there a stewardship function to all of this? Do you chart?
No, we don't.
Mm-mm.
We expect those who are in-house and belong to our church. Now, we haven't done where you have gone, where we have included members who are online only. We haven't done that yet. We're just looking at trying how to engage those who watch us regularly.
Mm-hmm.
But do they not, is there not a contribution button?
If they want to, they can. We don't worry about that.
Somebody must worry.
So we're pushing a little bit.
No, we are absolutely confident that God will take care of those details. Seek first the kingdom, he'll take care of it.
Although it's, for us, it's a both and. I mean, yes, we're seeking first his kingdom, but we're also making sure that the financial question is something that we deal with.
Yeah, and we do every Sunday in worship, we
Right.
have, here are 5 ways you can give.
Yes.
We offer them,
Yeah.
and we
Here's the
thank
QR code.
people,
Right.
you know, for the opportunity to support the ministry. We're continuing to do an amazing ministry. Thank you for your generosity, but we don't, that's it, that's where the movement stops.
For me, I recognize that we are really early in this game.
Yeah.
And so that's an area that we are looking at, but I understand that it's probably going to be 2 or 3 years before we have really good data that tells us what they're giving, what is the ratio between new members and the relationship between their giving, that kind of stuff. So that's something we're thinking about, but it's going to be a couple years before we really understand.
Early on, because like Evan said, early on, we use a local TV network, so we're across our whole state. And it's ours, there is significant cost for us to do that. And we had a gentleman call and, like, well, how you doing this? And I said, well, we pay for it out of our budget. No, you don't, because this wasn't in your budget. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. But we just got to get paid for it.
Right.
And he's like, okay, well, I think we want to help out a little bit. And he sent a check in for $10,000. And then he ended up, when we started being in person again, 6-8 months later, he and his wife ended up joining because they were only about 30 miles away.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
but his year-end gift this year was to the TV ministry. Even though they come in person, he
Mm-hmm.
made another $10,000 gift towards the television ministry because he wants it to continue.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's so rewarding to get the comments that say, I am so thankful that you are here and doing this, because otherwise I couldn't feel like I was a part of something. So that's the best.
And it's that interesting blend too, where this was that perfect storm where you had the ability to have a conversation about some of this stuff, whereas the younger generations were looking for some of that, where if they don't have a checkbook, they don't carry cash.
Right.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
They're auto-drafting everything.
Mm-hmm.
So for them just to put church on, it's a weekly poll, that conversation was a different conversation.
Mhm.
Now, different generations are also having that as well, to say, yeah, that's just something that we do as part of how we do it.
Yeah, about a third of our income comes via our, you know,
Yeah.
wireless.
We're about 2/3 actually.
Yeah.
2/3.
Yeah, we're closer to that.
Wow.
2/3, 3/4.
Yeah, we have a third people, a third from those who actually show up, another third from people who are mailing it in.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are still people who just.
Oh, yes.
Don't get it that hard to type in. And then the other response. But we offer them all of them. They can
All the
pick
ways.
one they want, which is amazing, so.
But you talk about it. That's
Oh,
the thing.
yeah.
Yes.
Every Sunday, we show them, here are the 5 ways, it's part of our
In
announcements.
the past, it was, here's the plate. Now it's,
I know. It's
Yeah, the plate, yeah, and we don't even pass the plate anymore.
We don't
It's just-
no, it's in the back.
That's
Hmm.
the correct answer, yeah. You don't want to. You don't want to have all that.
It's cringeworthy when they forget,
Although
when the pastor doesn't say what you need them to say.
You know, even when we're passing the plates, you know, somebody say, oh, okay, I'll put $5 in. We don't have cash anymore. Nobody gives cash.
We had a huge conversation about that, our kind of standard policies, whether you're a member, whether you're a member online or in person, we expect you to give, you can do these 5 ways. If you're a guest, or you've got a church home somewhere else, give and support there.
Yeah.
And we have just kind of been intentionally all the way through. We had an app prior to this, and what this did is it drove our app participation by like 40% more
Sure.
engagement
Sure.
than it was pre-COVID. Well, that was a real blessing. That's all I'm
Yep.
But, and the other thing, the other large piece of that cash conversation, one of the things we came down on, we said, we don't want to, we felt like at times the plate comes by and somebody's, I gotta throw, you know, I gotta throw something in, this is a leftover gift, I wasn't planning on giving, but, you know,
Yep.
that's gone now.
That's gone.
Yeah, I gotta pay my tax to be here.
Mhm.
Well, I don't want you giving because of that.
Right, and have you seen your giving grow over the last 2 years? We have. I mean,
Last year was weird for us. So 2 years ago, yes. I mean, our giving went up, but again, I think a lot of that was because of the monies that came from the stimulus. Last year, our per household giving was up, but the number of households that gave was down. So yeah, we're still navigating that. Again, I think as the pandemic gets behind us, we'll start to land on, okay, what's really going on. So yeah, but we're keeping our eyes on that pretty carefully.
But in you guys' context, are there a lot of churches that don't do any of this, what we're talking about here? Lutheran churches that don't do anything online?
A lot of this, I'm in Wisconsin, so there are some smaller, 100-member congregations that don't, or struggled or putting together, like, they were starting at just kind of a zero-based infrastructure. So it took them a while. But that being said, money from had. Yeah, the tools are there.
Somebody from the congregation stepped up to
Yeah.
just say, I'm just gonna do this.
Pastor, I work IT, whatever, I can help you.
I think during the height of the pandemic, I think all the congregations in our circuit were doing something. As things have receded, the larger congregations are keeping it, the smaller congregations are doing it.
Does it have to do with worship style, worship options, I should say?
That,
Wouldn't
I
matter.
have
we do both. We have a traditional and a contemporary. We do both.
Yeah. So it wouldn't matter. And people watch both.
They might.
We'd like to think, maybe.
I would think those who prefer the traditional watch the traditional, and those who watch the contemporary watch the contemporary.
That's been interesting because our traditional is early. And I feel like in the Charlotte area, people who would typically come to contemporary might have watched traditional to move along with their day after that, when they were just doing. I mean, whatever.
Worship services happen concurrent, at the same time.
It's like, oh.
Within about a half an hour, so usually those who are watching the one aren't watching.
Yeah.
So as you've increased these opportunities and areas for people to reach out creatively, how have you been able to get volunteers to help you out in new areas during a time when it seems like, at least for us, we're getting less and less volunteers?
I have kind of picked them. I have zeroed in on people who are you're here every Sunday online. I try and get people who are going to be online more than not, and I have found a couple of friends online that are from the congregation. They're like, hey, anytime you need someone to do the chat the Sunday, I'll do it. And now I'm looking to build that, but I would say, because I'm not really into the volunteers in person. Those have been terrible. I feel like nobody's volunteering anymore, but I'm just cherry picking them. And part of our membership database, you can pick your interests. So I've been going in and running like reports. Who said they were interested in communication or I don't even know, things that were IT even, or anything that.
Is that in your ads? You say, hey, I saw you were interested in.
I said, well, yeah.
It creates that accountability piece, right? Like you said you were interested in this.
Yeah, I say I've been looking for people who say that they enjoy, and I've noticed you're online almost every Sunday with me. So would you do you prefer traditional or contemporary? Would you be willing to? It's not difficult, but I'm only supposed to be working 12 hours a week for this hat, and so.
The reality is.
Oh well,
Cover the mic.
No, I mean, it's probably closer to 15 to 20. I don't, it's not, the majority of the work I do is Sunday. A lot of the stuff that is during the week can be pre-scheduled, can be, I mean, I do the engagement part. It's very hard to even put a number to it. The good thing is that most of what you do online, except for that stuff that's live streaming, can be done anywhere. Any, right now, at any time that I have 10 minutes here or there. But I don't know. I love it, but